Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFIsh Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Monday, November 25th, 2019. This is our GoldFIsh Report number 408, and it is our week 148 POTUS Report with, of course, my esteemed colleague and co-host, the most dangerous mind in America, the Fets. How are you, Jim?
Oh, great, Louisa. Michael Bloomberg seems to think he can buy his way to the Democratic nomination. I don't know how the modern Democratic Party is going to respond to a rich white guy. That's the guy they're trying to get out of office. I cannot see them coming to his support, especially when as the mayor, this was the guy who denied us the right to drink a big Slurpee. I don't think he has a chance.
Yeah, leave our Slurpees alone. I mean, come on, people, really. Jim, are you ready for another week of another episode of political theater?
Absolutely, Louisa, lay it on.
I think we're going to have to rename the report, Jim, from the POTUS Report to the political theater, huh?
Yep, very fitting.
It's going to be called the Political Theater Masterpiece. Okay, because when I grew up, there was something called Masterpiece Theater. Remember that, Jim?
Sure.
Okay, so this is Political Theater Masterpiece. So here we go, folks. We're going to start off by screen sharing a very good summary of this political theater that we're talking about.
Those of you at home, it's time to change the channel, turn down the volume, or hide the kids, put them to bed. Now I yield to Mr. Schiff for story time hour.
For story time hour. That sums it up.
Nunes is a straight shooter. I've been very impressed with him for quite a long time now.
Yeah, no, and he summed it right up. I mean, didn't we say last week Schiff's playing impeachment TV? Okay, so he's playing one. Okay, folks. So this week we are also going to have the turkey pardons tomorrow. We're going to have the turkeys are in town, and let me go right to that view of them in the in their luxury hotel rooms. Just check this out. Can you see that, Jim?
Yes.
The turkeys on the bellmans carrying the turkeys. As everybody knows, this is Thanksgiving week. We will be observing Thanksgiving. Here they are in their hotel room. Look how posh that is, Jim. They're really getting the red carpet, huh?
For a turkey's last meal.
I know. Poor turkeys. There they are. And they each have their own bed. Look at this. Watch this. That's it. So that's what's going on at the White House, folks. So there's a lot going on, actually, and we have. This is exactly what we're talking about here. I'm going to play another clip.
How many of you all still think Trump will win in 2020? Do you honestly think that any of these Democrats could beat Trump?
If they all rally for one, there's so many people running.
So we all need to agree on who that one candidate is, and then all the other candidates support him. Tell me who's that candidate.
Elizabeth Warren.
Trump 2020, baby.
That's right. Trump 2020, baby. You know, that's the problem. They're not united. And that's exactly what, President Trump retweeted this tweet this morning as well. Look, we have another stock market record. The president's announcing that an hour ago. We have Kevin Shipp here reporting how the CIA is currently forcing its employees to wear gay rainbow badge lanyards. Employees are encouraged to wear them, proclaiming they are an ally of the LBGTQ push. The CIA Diversity Council claims the program is voluntary, but those who refuse are noted. That's a job I certainly don't need. Okay, so we also have Rudy Giuliani talking about that he did not ask anyone to dig up dirt on Joe Biden, and certainly not with Dmitry Firtash, who I have never met or talked to. He claims I never heard of Shoking meeting with Congressman Nunes, so he's talking about that. We have the FBI request to speak to the whistleblower. The Democrats are in panic mode. And just, folks, this is a little bit telling. We've been trying to tell you about this for a while. But this is Fox News reporting, is this a mistake? Check this out. Take a good, close look at this. Look, we've got Supreme Court Justice. You see Fox News right in the left corner there, folks. 1933 to 2019. What? Is this a slip-up? Is this a mistake? Or what?
No sound.
couldn't hear it?
Nope.
Oh man, okay, folks, we need a better system. We really need some supporters. We need some Patreons who are, have some big bucks they want to invest in some truth media here, because we need to play these clips and we need you to be able to hear them. It was a low volume clip, okay, but it was announcing the death of Hillary Clinton back on September 11th of 2016. And, so are these slip ups? Are these coincidences? What's going on with, with this? Is there a cover up here? So I wanted to just bring that to your attention. It says that NYPD is ready to make arrests in the Anthony Wiener case, according to Breitbart News. You can go to our blog. I'm sorry, folks. You could go to our Twitter page and look at the stories, or go to Breitbart and look that up yourself. That's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. We have Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew's pal, and Epstein's madam, Ghislaine Maxwell, is ready to reveal all to the FBI. Well, we'll see about that. And, we have, again, more reports of insanity in the school system, where we have kids that are being taught to touch themselves, being taught teachers will need to explain vaginal, oral, and anal sex, as well as teach kids about masturbation.
What in the world, Louisa? Where is this taking place? Is this La La Land?
It's got to be it's got to be Times of California. Oh, it looks like it's in New Zealand. It's in New Zealand.
Bizarre.
It says timeslive.co.za on there, so it looks like this is the talk at CBS. Children as young as 6 are being given compulsory self-touching lessons that will teach them about touching or stimulating their own genitals. Folks, this is not the place for schools. I think the kids don't need to be, look, we know that this is an agenda to sexualize kids early, to get them to transgender and all this other bullcrap. And I'm so sick of it as a parent, it's not even funny. My kids are confused because, they're confused about what's biologically normal. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that, you can only procreate with an XX and an XY. That's how we evolve, and that's how we, populate ourselves as a species, how we repopulate, we reproduce. I'm not saying that people are abnormal because they don't have, they have different packages or combinations of packages, but please, let's not, this is the Satanist agenda, Jim, where they literally try to, they try to invert what's God-given, okay? They take anything that's godly and they try to invert it and distort it. And people have to recognize that's what this is and not to go along with it. And if you have a choice, take your kids out of these schools that are doing this. I mean, that's all I have to say.
This appears to be another manifestation of what's known as cultural Marxism, of a Zionist effort to corrupt our society, to drive us apart, to reduce our reproductive capacity, to destroy the white race. This appears to be part and parcel of that agenda.
Yeah, and let me just screen share one other thing here that I think is very revealing. And if you had any questions about, if you ever had any questions, and I want to make sure that I get this screen share on here accurately. If you ever had any questions about the fake news, folks, hold on a second. This should clear it up for you, okay? Just take a look.
And I'm Ryan Wolf. Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We're
Same
extremely
words
proud
from
of
the
the
same
quality,
script.
balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
Plaguing our country.
the sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts.
You think?
What a joke.
All too common on social media.
We got the fake news, every one of them giving the same story off of the same script. Brilliant piece.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Look at Jim.
Doesn't leave any room for doubt, Louisa. Fake news, 100%.
100. Absolutely, Jim. Absolutely. There's no beyond a shadow of a doubt, Jim, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Folks, let's just take a look real quick at what's going on with the president. Let's see, Jim, are we off screen share here? I think we are. So I'm going to just talk about, let's screen share the blog here, because I've got a bunch of different things to share with everybody today. In terms of the president, he says it's not Trump that's on trial on Capitol Hill, it's democracy, folks, and that's exactly true. Public impeachment hearings have begun in Washington, but nothing has changed. The Ukraine rebound scandal simply follows from the Russia collusion probe as the latest front in a smoothly operating, taxpayer-funded propaganda war of political intimidation. An attempt not only to undermine President Trump, but also to demoralize and break the will of those who voted for him. This is according to the New York Post. Democrats trying to move on from the disastrous testimony of Robert Mueller offer us a new cadre of government insider witnesses, most of whose evidence would be laughed out of any courtroom in America, except for the family courtrooms, which are a joke, because there's a lot of fraud going on in these courtrooms, folks. A lot of fraud. And we're gonna be talking about that in more detail probably later this week. So we know as Democratic Representative Adam Schiff isn't a constitutional scholar, as he said last week, but plays one on TV. This is exactly what they said last week. Exactly. His latest gambit is an attempt to redefine bribery in the Constitution to include President Trump's behavior towards Ukraine. Of course, he's wrong about the law and constitutional history. Take a look at the rest of these reports, folks. Every person in the U.S. has had an experience of confusion, frustration, anger, and sometimes severe financial distress due to the bureaucracy and sheer obscurity of healthcare pricing. So, of course, the president is trying to make it he's trying to put the transparency, make more transparency in the healthcare industry, so you know what something is going to cost in advance before you get into it, and you end up having to mortgage your house, take a second mortgage out on your house in order to pay for your bills. So I'm going to just show you what the president's doing real quick. What he's been up to since last week. We have the president making announcements of a new judicial nominee. We have, excuse me, David Joseph of Louisiana to serve as judge on the United States District Court for the Western District of Louisiana. So I didn't refresh that, but I did accidentally retweet it. So nomination sent to the Senate. We have Andrew Lynn Brasher of Alabama to be United States Circuit Court Judge for the 11th Circuit. We have, pardon me, folks, Jason Chung of Virginia to be United States Director of Asian Development Bank. That's interesting, with the rank of ambassador. Okay. John Holcomb of California to be United States District Judge for the Central District of California. We need new judges, and this is exactly what the president is doing. He's trying to get judges who will uphold and follow the Constitution, not redefine it and punch holes in it and say, oh, well, we need to amend this and we need to amend that, because it doesn't fit our agenda. That's what the Democrats are doing. Here we have Joshua Kindred of Alaska to be United States District Judge for District of Alaska. We have Michelle Pettit of California to be Southern District of California District Judge, United States District Judge rather, for Southern District of California. We have Todd Wallace Robinson of California. God knows we need new judges in California for sure, and the president is doing just that. And then Jennifer Togliatti of Nevada to be United States District Court Judge for District of Nevada. I'd like to see more of those for New Jersey Jersey, Trenton, and the Third Circuit, of course. So again, on the 21st, the president signed into law Furthering Continuing Appropriations Act. So this talks about appropriations to federal agencies, including a broad range of Medicare, Medicaid, and public health and human services activities and other matters. So the president also had a wonderful, incredible week with the First Lady as well. So published on November 22nd was a week in review of the photos. Here we have the First Lady sitting down with Billy Ray Cyrus and David and Joshua Smith of the family of a 16-year-old Channing Smith to discuss cyberbullying and online safety, as they had the son died of a suicide attempt as a result of cyberbullying incident. So the First Lady sitting down in the Red Room on this matter here, trying to bring attention to this. And let's keep going. We know that the president had an open press cabinet meeting last week. We had quite a few people going, a lot of press there. So they're all reporting on what was going on in the cabinet room. We have the vice president here. In the vice, we never see the vice president in his office at the White House. And this is the vice president in his office in the West Wing of the White House, meeting with the Polish president, Wiener, so it's nice to see that, he has his own office there, because we never see him in it. And so we continue. We have the vice president also. This is very historic and very important, folks. The vice president delivers remarks during a White House conference on supporting contemporary Native American veterans. And so this was at the Eisenhower Executive Building of the White House. So, this is an administration you couldn't be more inclusive of every group that there is in America. He's extremely inclusive and respectful, and likes to pay homage and support to all the different groups and to their contributions. Here's another photo of you have Native American service members participating in a White House conference and supporting contemporary Native American veterans, as we just said, and they're performing a native cultural ritual or performance. Here we have the president, of course, disembarking from Air Force One after going to he was at the Apple manufacturing plant down in Austin, Texas. So he was touring the plant with Tim Cook, and there's a picture of him here with Tim Cook, and this is called Flextronics International. So this is where you have an Apple manufacturing within the United States, which is nice. We shipped all the manufacturing across the seas, Jim. We were losing our manufacturing. Our unemployment was skyrocketing. We were losing jobs, and the president has been bringing them back, and here's the evidence of it. Aside from the Louis Vuitton manufacturing facility in Texas as well. So Texas is opening its doors to new manufacturing, and this is wonderful news for the United States. Here's the president talking with an employee at the Apple plant, and here's more pictures. Here's the Mac Pro being manufactured there, and Ivanka Trump is with him there as well, and this is the president disembarking. He's on his way back to the White House. And again, I wanted to bring, for all the people who criticize the Red Cross, we do know that, there's been a lot of corruption within the Red Cross. But let me tell you that when there's an emergency, there are the volunteers of the Red Cross are unmistakably, there's no corruption in these people. They are volunteers from the goodness of their heart who come at natural disasters and help people to integrate. They help them with medicine. They help them with shelter. They help them with supplies. During Hurricane Sandy, the American Red Cross, I'm telling you, I became good friends with one of the workers who lives in Michigan. And she was just a wonderful woman who gave up her life, stopped everything, and came to New Jersey to help people recover from Hurricane Sandy. So yes, there's been problems with the management of Red Cross. And times there has been some big questions regarding their finances and where their contributions are going to. However, the president and the First Lady and the Second Lady, Karen Pence, were at the American Red Cross leadership. They had a membership of service members. This is for the spouses of service members, military service members, and cabinet members assembling military comfort kits. So these will be sent out during the week of Thanksgiving. And what was very nice, and you see the picture of on the left is Karen Pence. You see the First Lady in the center there, and they're putting kits together to go to our service members. And this is what the first wives do. You know, this is when we have service members deployed abroad, we have our first wives who play, you know, it's like the first wives. I mean, they're first wives to all the military, and here, in a sense, like it's the first mom as well. You know what I mean? So she takes that leadership role, and so this is what they're doing. And here is a card, a very lovely card that they're reading, and this is what it says. This is a card that accompanies each of these care packages, and you can pause this and take a look at it and read it if you'd like. And you know, it's very nice. And then, of course, we have the vice president touring this USS Cooperstown. Jim, this is in, you have to tell me how they do this. They're building this battleship in the middle of Marinette, Wisconsin. How are they going to get it to the ocean? Are they going to ship this?
I think it'd have to go down the Mississippi.
Down the Mississippi? Or through the St. Lawrence waterway?
No, not through the St. Lawrence, no, down.
Go down the Mississippi. Really, this is huge. I'd like to see them transport this thing. So I'm thinking, how the heck are they getting it out of there? And of course, you have the vice president here visiting students in the Marinette, Wisconsin. And so this was, you know, a tour. I would say it had building up, you know, support for the president, of course, Karen Pence. And of course, you have the First Lady here. National Medal of Arts recipients are the musicians of the United States military. Yahoo! Let's hear it for those musicians who are always there playing for the president and for the...
always looks so classy. It's just very...
Isn't she? She's amazing. I absolutely love our FLOTUS. I think she's so amazing, just stunning. I'm sure she's, you know, when I saw her at the White House, it was from a distance, so I didn't really get to see her up close, but she has a presence. You have to give her that credit. Look how classy she is. They're here posed with actor Jon Voight, and hysterical Jon Voight was at the White House. They were receiving the National Medal of Arts and National Humanities Medal, and here he is. Oh, I don't know if I have the picture here, but here's another recipient, Sharon Percy Rockefeller, for National Medal of Arts to Public Broadcasting. And here he is. Here's Jon Voight, who was dancing to the theme of the movie Midnight Cowboy as he was, you know, right before he received his award, and laughing. Everyone was having a good time there. It's nice when people can just show their authentic personality and not be so nervous when they go to the White House. But here he is receiving that medal, that award. And here we have, again, First Lady. Doesn't she have a presence, Jim? Look at her. She's so stunning.
She's sensational.
I mean,
does that back as a model, but I mean, it does so well in the White House.
I mean, but look at her hair. It's not even like sophisticated, but it's absolutely beautiful. She's like, you know, she doesn't have to tie it in a bun and put it up, and no French twist, no nothing. It's just down, flip back on the side a little, and just beautiful, just amazingly beautiful. And she, you know, this is a little more somber, and I'm just about finishing up, Jim. This is the President and First Lady attending the dignified transfer ceremony for United States Army Chief Warrant Officer to...
Salute by Donald Trump, by the way.
Pardon?
That's a perfect salute by Donald Trump.
And it should be. He went to military academy. He knows how to do it. And so this is paying respect to the Chief Warrant Officer, David Nadel of Tarrant, Texas, and United States Army Chief Warrant Officer to Kirk Fujigami Jr. of Hawaii at Dover Air Force Base. And this has to be the hardest part of being president, is when you know you have, you know, and First Lady, when you know you have an order to send troops into an area and someone gets killed and they're brought home this way. But they attended the transfer. And I'll tell you that says so much about this president. It says so much about this president. It's unbelievable. And of course you have First Lady there, because they're sending these people into the war zones, and that's the least they can do, because they understand the gravity of what it means when we lose a life on their watch. So you know, that was highlighted. He showed his respect, and here's some more pictures of that right here of both of these servicemen who we honor. And you know, our hearts go out to their families, who they will be forever missed. But this is the reality, folks. We are at war, and we do need to realize that. And here's a black and white photo image of that as well, joined by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley. So here we have it now. A little bit more later on Friday, we had the president hold a ceremony here for the the NCAA Maryland's women's lacrosse team. So the champions in the blue room, and they presented the president with a jersey, Trump won jersey. Here's also the NCAA University of California Men's Championship swim team. So the president's honoring them. And of course, one of them was wearing a Trump tie, and he signs it. How cool is our president just signing the guy's tie? He's so cool. He's so, you know, he's really a team player. He just loves the spirit, and loves and appreciates also the support for our country of these great patriots. And of course, he's being honored with a hat from them as well. And of course, here we have this cabinet meeting, and of course we have Kellyanne Conway, who's attending it. Mitt Romney was there, and this was huge, Jim. And I'm going to end on this story because this was about e-cigarettes. And you know, right now, the whole vaping issue is very big at the White House, because it does affect our kids, and so many kids are vaping right now. And the issues that they were trying to discuss were what should they do about this problem? It's really a problem, a major problem. Kids are getting addicted to the nicotine. Pardon me, through the.
It appears to be even more addicting than the nicotine, which is the most addictive substance known to man.
Absolutely. And this is kind of like, talk about gateway, right? So one of the things the president's proposing is an age limit of 21, and also enforcement of that at these stores. They're usually sold at convenience stores, you know, and an owner of one of the convenience stores was present there at the meeting, has about 130,000 convenience stores. So it's a lot of employees, and they have to be. Anyone who doesn't abide by these laws, just like how strict it is for selling tobacco products, right? They'll lose their license to sell if they don't uphold the law. So it looks like it might go, Jim, not only to an age restriction of 21, but they're also definitely considering banning all of the flavors for these, because they think that the flavoring is what is attracting the kids. And they're not so sure if they're going to ban menthol, but they do think that menthol is part of the problem too, because if that's the only flavor that's available, that's what the kids will use. So it looks like the president is tackling this issue, folks. It's for our kids. It's for our kids' safety. And let's hope that, you know, they'll solve this problem, because my kids can't go to the bathroom at their school because kids vape in the bathroom. So they have to have accidents, and they have to have problems because they can't get to the bathrooms. I'm telling you, it's so
very bad, Louisa.
It's ridiculous, Jim. It's just another one of those stupid policies that, you know, that punish everybody and all the kids that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's not the way to handle it, because, you know, you have good kids. I mean, look, you know, you're going to get bladder infections, you know, urinary tract infections, and kids have to hold it and they can't get to the bathroom because they block off certain bathrooms. So you have to go like all the way. And if you have to go during class, then you miss your instruction, because then you have to walk farther. So you're out of the class like 10 minutes and you're missing vital instruction, and the kids don't like that too. So they really have to come up with a better solution. So that's it, my friend. It's been an interesting week. We do have Thanksgiving this week, and I do want to wish all of our viewers a happy Thanksgiving. It's strictly, you know, in the spirit of being thankful for what we have, and of course, being thankful for our wonderful President Trump. So I'll hand it over to you now, my friend.
Well, we had, of course, the fifth Democratic debate, and here's an assessment from Vox of the winners and the losers. Pete Buttigieg seems to have been the major winner. He's leading the polls now in Iowa, the first state which will vote in the primaries. He's moving up in New Hampshire. to the detriment of Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren, though she had a good debate. In a weaker position she came in than in previous showdowns, but demonstrated that, like Bernie Sanders, her framework still anchors much of the conversation on the economy and healthcare. I frankly find her very difficult to take. The idea of having this woman with her semi-hysterical manner coming into my living room every day as president really drives me up the wall. I don't expect she's going to prevail in any case. Cory Booker came out looking better, where he was weak in the beginning, but rose to the issue of the black vote and was actually quite articulate and forceful. Many of the challenges facing his campaign and that of Kamala Harris include the failure to break through with black voters who seem to be very much supportive of Joe Biden. Another winner, interestingly, even though she wasn't on the stage, was Stacey Abrams. The debate was taking place in Atlanta, Georgia. She was very narrowly ahead in the polling for the 2018 race, but nevertheless lost. Democrats claimed it was voter suppression. It may have been. In any case, she came out looking very good. The losers, the biggest, Joe Biden, his claim to the nomination appears to be weakening. He's been dropping. And of course, the impeachment hearings aren't helping because of so much attention focused on Ukraine, Burisma, and his son Hunter. Another loser, the asylum seekers. Despite the discussions of Julian Castro's proposal to decriminalize border crossings, and incidentally, he wasn't on the stage because he hadn't made the combination of donations and polling. Immigration has received slight treatment of late in the debate, probably because Trump seems to be handling it relatively well and far better than did Obama, where when you learn that Obama had massive more deportations than Trump, for example, it casts a whole new light on the situation. Healthcare also seems to have fallen behind. It was featured in Bernie Sanders' opening, but after that, it was Pete Buttigieg who had attacked Elizabeth Warren over Medicare for All, who made an intentional pivot to healthcare. He framed it as part of his answer about how he would try to bridge partisan divisions in Washington. He's attacked the single payer plan, supported by them as potentially too politically divisive and too expensive, but prefers a public option insurance plan that anyone could buy into. I think as far as the debates were concerned, that the Democrats had a relatively pedestrian effort. It turns out the most sought after candidate was once again Tulsi Gabbard, who I think is making a far more favorable impression on the American people than upon the DNC, where the candidates by and large are seeking to marginalize and isolate her, Louisa. Voice. Mute.
Sorry, I don't have any comments, Jim.
Oh.
Other than the fact that Tulsi Gabbard was wearing an upside down cross. You know, I don't know. Figure that out, folks. What does that mean?
Meanwhile, the real winner was the Democrats in general, because Trump's approval has been increasing even with the impeachment battle. Now, this is a report from Gallup, well known to be favorable to the Democrats and therefore not expected to give an honest account, which we actually do have here from the Marquette School of Law in relation to Wisconsin, which will be a pivotal state, where I, of course, reside myself. Gallup found 43% supporting Trump's performance, 2 points higher than October, and his disapproval dropped from 57 to 34. So his approval went up 2, his disapproval went down 3. Republican support for the president's performance has remained unchanged throughout the inquiry, with 90% backing Trump. Only 4% of Democrats approve of the president, 38% of independents. This is interesting because Gallup noted former President Nixon's approval took a downward fall during the development of the impeachment inquiry, but that's not happening with Donald Trump. suggesting that one more indication that this impeachment move is ill-fated. Most strikingly and significantly, a new Marquette Law School poll finds shifts in Wisconsin public opinion favorable to President Trump on impeachment and presidential election preferences. Even as hearings that could lead to President Trump's impeachment heat up, a new Marquette University Law School poll of Wisconsin registered voters finds consistent, if somewhat modest, shifts in public opinion away from support for impeachment and toward supporting Trump in next year's presidential election. This is very, very telling, Louisa. For example, Trump holds small leads over each of the 4 top Democratic candidates for president in head-to-head matchups in the new survey, while previously 3 of the Democrats had held small leads over Trump. While the shift in opinion on both impeachment and presidential preference are not large, they are consistent across multiple questions, including increases for Trump's work on foreign policy and the economy. It was conducted November 13th through 17th, meaning it was quite current. In the new poll, 40% of registered voters think Trump should be impeached and removed, but 53% do not think so. In October, 44% had favored impeachment and removal, and 51% were opposed. So he's gaining ground there too. The November result also finds 52% say they believe Trump asked the Ukrainian president to investigate Trump's political rivals, namely Joe Biden, really his son, while 29% believe Trump did not do it. 41% believe Trump withheld military aid to pressure the Ukrainian president, while 38% don't. What this means, Louisa, is even though there's a preponderance of supporting the allegations by the Democrats, Trump's support is nevertheless increasing. Here are views in relation to different parties. The Republicans impeach and remove only 4%, don't think so 94%. Leaning Republican, impeach and remove only 7%, don't think so 92%. Independents, crucial, 36% impeach and remove, 47% no. Leaning Democrats, 73% impeach and remove, 20% don't think so. Straight Democrats, 81% impeach and remove, don't think so 11%. More significantly, I think, is how Trump has now a 3-point lead over former Vice President Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, 5 points over Elizabeth Warren and 8 points over Pete Buttigieg. I mean, this is really remarkable. Here's a matchup with Biden, 44% for Biden, 47% for Trump. Sanders, 45% for Sanders, 48% for Trump. Warren, 43% for Warren, 48% Trump. Buttigieg, 39% for Buttigieg, 47% for Trump. And we know historically, polls underestimate Trump support by about 5%, Louisa. So it looks very much as though Trump is not only weathering the storm, but coming out looking better. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, I saw that poll as well, and I'm not surprised because if you look at what's happening at all the rallies, how can you deny that his support is anything but huge, huge? And you know, it's always been an issue of honesty, really, with these pollsters, to be honest with you. But like you pointed out, you know, at some point they can't hide it anymore, Jim. They're going to have to report it.
Well, Gallup, I believe, is biased in favor of the Democratic side. The Marquette Law School Report has generally been highly reliable. And because of the pivotal role of Wisconsin, once again, I believe this is very, very telling, and that the Democrats are essentially guaranteeing their defeat in 2020 by pursuing impeachment.
Well, Jim, let me just finish one other comment. Is that I was attending the university, the public policy department. That's where I was going to school at one of these other universities that puts a poll out. So I know how biased they are to, to the Democrats, because I know how they're teaching in their department. And, so you're absolutely right. I mean, they are biased, and they're going to, they're going to still try to get that still try to sway public opinion at the polls, at the polling boxes. But I don't think it's going to work, Jim.
Not only is the bias of the pollsters evident, but the bias of the entire impeachment is becoming increasingly blatant and obvious to the American public. Here we have a photo emerging of the alleged whistleblower shaking hands with none other than Barack Obama. A photos emerged showing alleged Ukrainian whistleblower Eric Karamella shaking hands with President Obama in the Oval Office. The image obtained by the Washington Examiner was posted on a close friend's wedding website a year after Karamella left Trump's White House. In the photo, the then Ukraine director on the National Security Council at the White House is shown smiling as he shakes the hand of Barack Obama in front of a portrait of Abraham Lincoln. A person described by the Examiner as a Republican close to the White House cites the exchange of proof of Karamella's deep state bias, of which we have repeated affirmations. He was really a supporter of Joe Biden. He was a never Trumper. He was a registered Democrat. He was working with John Brennan. I mean, it's all completely disgusting. Here's a photograph. This picture raises serious questions about how the sham impeachment process started, a senior Trump administration official said. I think that's completely correct. And the fact that the Democrats are trying to bury the whistleblower and don't even want him to testify is extremely telling. While the image doesn't specifically speak to Karamella's motivation, the report notes aides often got a prize photo with Obama before he left office. His resume, combined with the image, certainly tells a story. He isn't just a politically neutral, concerned citizen. He's a career CIA officer, registered Democrat, worked with former Vice President Joe Biden, former CIA Director John Brennan. He was Biden's guest at a State Department banquet in October 2016. A report by Real Clear Investigations notes that Karamella is a vocal critic of Trump, who helped initiate the Russia collusion investigation of the Trump campaign during the 2016 election. And look at this, Louisa. Here are some other photographs of Eric Karamella with a few of his friends, with Hillary Clinton, with Chuck Schumer, with Elizabeth Warren, with Nancy Pelosi. This guy is very politically connected on the Democratic side, Louisa. Fairly shocking. Meanwhile, after removing the Ukrainian prosecutor, Obama's State Department plotted with the whistleblower Eric Karamella in the White House to push the Steele dossier. The Obama administration coerced the Ukrainian government into removing the prosecutor investigating the Ukraine from Burisma, where Joe Biden played the crucial role in its ties to Obama's vice president and Secretary of State, John Kerry, as well. Then they plotted with Eric Karamella and pushed the Steele dossier. During this time, too, we find Victoria Nuland was playing a crucial role. It was she who used $5 billion of American taxpayer dollars to foment unrest in the Ukraine and drive out the democratically elected president, to install a stooge, really with an additional $500 million from George Soros. According to records from Obama White House archives, Nuland was involved in the following White House meetings. Notice the pattern. October 7, 2015, Nuland meets Biden at the White House. November 5, 2015, Ambassador Jeffrey Pyatt met National Security Advisor Avril Haines, former CIA, at the White House. March 29, 2016, Ukrainian prosecutor Shokin was formally dismissed in a parliamentary vote. March 30th, 2016, Nuland meets Biden at the White House. April 4th, 2016, Nuland meets Obama at the White House. April 13th, 2016, Nuland meets Susan Rice at the White House. April 14th, 2016, Nuland meets Biden at the White House again. In June 15th, 2016, Nuland, Pyatt, and O'Malley meet Biden at the White House. June 17, 2016, Pyatt meets Karamella at the White House with Nuland present as well. So within a month of Nuland and Pyatt's visits with Karamella in the White House, Nuland shared the Russia collusion Steele dossier with the FBI. We also know Obama's State Justice Department assisted millionaire Democratic donor George Soros in an attempt to control Ukraine's gas and oil industry. In late 2015, she was connected to a coup that the deep state was carrying out, where Obama officials, including Nuland and the Ukrainian ambassador, discussed toppling the Ukrainian government and replacing officials with then Vice President Joe Biden's approval, which of course went forward with success. However, here you see a real voter in Michigan. Democrats have been calling for impeachment ever since this guy was elected. They're not buying the Schiff sham on impeachment, Louisa. They're not buying it at all. Meanwhile, we have more reports. Whistleblower attended White House meetings and coordinated with the Democrats' impeachment witness Alexander Vindman. Remember something important, the Mueller investigation was based entirely on lies crafted by the DNC in coordination with Hillary Clinton's campaign. They conspired to produce evidence, which was all fabricated, of collusion with Russia by their political opponents to sway an election. We still hear this fake story, this phony news being reported on a daily basis by Democrat zealots. But it didn't stop there. The State Department under Obama used illegal secret warrants to infiltrate and spy on a political rival, the Trump campaign. This was the whole FISA warrant scandal. They dragged the entire country through literally years of BS just to try and undermine a duly elected president. And in fact, that's completely outrageous and a violation of the Constitution, a form of treason. This Ukraine nonsense is not a different story. When Mueller failed, Democrats scrambled to concoct something new. And what might be the cleverest move to the left, from the left, they base a new false allegation on crimes they themselves had actually committed, conspiring with Ukraine to influence a U.S. election. How's that for irony? Just as dossier creator Christopher Steele was a partisan player and a liar, so too is the whistleblower. Anyone with an education beyond 5th grade can tell the whistleblower complaint was largely crafted by lawyers, expensive lawyers to boot. I've read it. It reads like a legal brief with citations. The language is too careful and clear, makes statements that sound bad but are hard to prove or disprove, almost like a public statement from Hillary Clinton. Well, we now have proof that all of our suspicions were correct. The whistleblower coordinated with many Democrats to create the complaint. None of it is based on facts or reality. If you want the truth, you can find it in this video. Louisa, your thoughts?
It's funny how we're starting to get more information on who these people were working with and aligned with, and this is all starting to come out now. And as soon as they said they want the person to testify, all of a sudden, when the president said that that there might be criminal referrals for treason here, all of a sudden, the guy's not available, and the Senate's trying to say, oh, it's going to be violation of the Whistleblower Act. So they're playing a lot of games with it, but again, they're going to fall on their own sword, Jim. It's all going to come out.
He's basically an insignificant person who is carrying water for the Democrats. We had a phrase in the Marine Corps. This guy wouldn't make a decent pimple on a corporal's butt. That's really shocking that he has been cast in this role, but of course they're going to try to protect him because he'd be such a pathetic witness and all political connections would emerge, and it would be so blatantly obvious this was a fabricated impeachment effort.
Yeah. Well, Q is even posting lately, and they're all saying the same thing. It's coming down, just one step at a time.
Exactly right, and we're getting more on Hunter. Reality Strikes Democrat show trial. The head of Burisma Holdings was indicted this week in Ukraine. A claim that alleges Hunter Biden and his partners received, get this, $16.5 million for their services. Vice President Biden's son Hunter took a lucrative post at Burisma board in 2014. He was making millions from the corrupt Ukraine oil and gas company, as were the sons of Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry, and even Mitt Romney, Louisa. This is just grotesquely corrupt. New memos released earlier this month reveal Burisma Holdings, Hunter Biden's Ukrainian natural gas company, pressured the Obama State Department to help end the corruption investigation during the 2016 election cycle, just 1 month before then Vice President Joe Biden forced Ukraine to fire Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor probing his son, by threatening to withhold $1 billion in foreign aid. Biden bragged about getting Shokin fired in a 2016 speech to the Council on Foreign Relations, which we have on video, and which we've shown on the program before. The media immediately covered for Biden, said his targeting of Shokin was completely unrelated to the prosecutor's corruption investigation into Hunter. I mean, this is a joke, Louisa, a joke. Meanwhile, House Intel Committee ranking member Devin Nunes and Jim Jordan sent a letter to Adam Schiff asking Hunter Biden and the whistleblower to be subpoenaed to appear before the committee, which they obviously don't want to do. Here's another report. Ukraine widens probe against Burisma founder to embezzlement of state funds, Kiev. Ukraine has widened its investigation into the founder of energy company Burisma to include suspicion of embezzling state funds. Prosecutor General Ruslan Rabashokka said on Wednesday, allegations of wrongdoing at Burisma go to the heart of a U.S. impeachment inquiry into whether President Donald Trump improperly pressured Ukraine's leadership to investigate his mean rival in the 2020 presidential race. It wasn't really Biden per se, but Hunter and the corrupt acts of Biden actually in withholding the $1 billion. Trump wants Ukraine to launch an investigation into former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter, who was a board member at Burisma from 2014 to 2019. The prosecutor who has investigated Burisma is Konstantin Kuliak, who previously met Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, to discuss accusations against Biden. After he took office in late August, Rabashokka has launched a wide-ranging audit of criminal cases to see whether they have been conducted properly. 13 of them related to the Burisma founder. He told reporters at a briefing Wednesday. Burisma did not respond to a request for comment. But Rabashokka's predecessor oversaw a series of investigations into Zolochevsky, a multimillionaire former Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources. The allegations concern tax violations, money laundering, licenses given to Burisma during the period when Zolochevsky was a minister. Meanwhile, and this is shocking, Joe Biden threatens Lindsey Graham that he'll regret investigating me his whole life. You want consciousness of guilt? Here it is, spelled out in capital letters. Former Vice President Joe Biden threatened Senator Lindsey Graham for launching an investigation into his activities with Ukraine, while in the Obama White House, stating the Republican will regret the move his whole life. They have him under their thumb right now. They know he knows that if he comes out against Trump, he's got a real tough road for re-election. Number one, the former vice president said about the South Carolina senator. He then added he's angered by the probe because of his long friendship with Lindsey Graham, dating back to their time in the Senate together, suggesting Trump may have pressured him to launch the probe. He knows me. He knows my son. He knows there's nothing to this, he vented. Trump is now essentially holding power over him that even the Ukrainians wouldn't yield to. The Ukrainians would not yield to, quote, investigate Biden. There's nothing to investigate about Biden or his son. Talk about protesting too affirmatively. This is too much, Louisa. The senator requested all documents and communications related to Joe Biden's phone calls with Poroshenko on February 11th, 18th, and 19th, and March 22nd of 2016, citing media reports that they discussed previous demands to dismiss Shokin for alleged corruption before he was removed from office on March 29, 2016, just 6 hours before Joe Biden caught his flight back to the U.S. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden-linked company received $130 million in special federal loans while Joe Biden was vice president. It's getting deeper and thicker, Louisa. An investment firm linked to Hunter Biden received over $130 million in federal bailout loans, while his father, Joe, was vice president and routed profits through a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands. according to federal banking and corruption records reviewed by the Washington Examiner. Financial experts said the offshore corporate structure could have been used to shield earnings from U.S. taxes. Rosemont Capital, an investment firm at the center of Hunter Biden's much scrutinized financial network, was one of the companies approved to participate in the 2009 federal loan program known as Term Asset-Backed Securities Loan Facility, or TALF, Louisa.
Look, I'm just looking at all the tweets that are coming in, and you know, we have FBI employee changed key docs in Trump probe, which we know that this is all coming down on them, Jim. We have still this IG report that we're all waiting for. This Horowitz report talks about crimes against children, investigating the Clinton Foundation. This is all going to start coming down. The Democrats don't have a chance. I said this like every report. Democrats don't have a chance in hell to win this re-election. Once this Horowitz report is out, and we reported last week, Jim, that they're going to be testifying on December 11th. A summary was already published. I posted it last week on our Twitter, and I'll repost it on our blog and Facebook. As soon as this comes out, Jim, it's over. It's just over. They can scramble all they want. All the corruption's, coming out. It's coming out in the open. Whatever was, was this passage in the Bible. Anything, whatever that is, there's nothing that shall remain hidden. Nothing shall remain hidden. That's all.
I'm certain Michael Bloomberg has very good intelligence sources. Yeah. He sees this coming. I believe, therefore, he's thrown his hat in the ring because he recognizes that the key Democratic Party figures are going to be implicated in massive corruption, and therefore need an outsider with relatively clean hands, and thereby offers himself a candidate who can essentially finance his own campaign without the need for money from the DNC. That may turn out to be an opportunity that is too tempting to resist.
I think that's an excellent observation, Jim. Excellent, because as soon as these sealed indictments are acted on, like on a large scale, I know that there have been some unsealing little by little as we've gone along, but I know that there will be more of a bulk, more of a massive mass arrest action on these sealed indictments. You're right. There won't be anyone left. Who's going to be left?
Well, Bloomberg might turn out to be last man standing.
Interesting.
Here's an interesting piece of disinformation. They were trying to use this Gordon Sondland testimony to affirm that definitely there was a quid pro quo, but they got sidetracked. And when Adam Schiff went back to say, you're talking about the quid pro quo for military aid for investigating the Bidens, Sondland said no. He's talking about a quid pro quo for even arranging to have the phone call, which left Adam Schiff out there. He'd walked a plank. He didn't know the answer to the question, where they'd been, attempting to deceive the public, and he thought he had support from Sondland when he did not. So listen to this. Trump's new no quid pro quo talking point is a trick. Trump claims a phone call with Sondland is evidence of his innocence. It might just be evidence he knew he got caught. They're just trying to find a way to spin it. President Trump claims a call he had with U.S. Ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, on September 9th proves that his dealings with the Ukrainian government did not stem from corrupt motives. It's a nice talking point, but the reality is more complicated. Remember now, these are apologists. This is coming from apologists for the impeachment. Sondland offered testimony to the House Intel Committee Wednesday that implicated pretty much all the top Trump administration officials in a scheme to use White House acts to leverage the Ukrainian government into doing political favors for the president. But that's not right. Trump responded to the testimony by repeatedly citing the September 9th call, one in which Trump repeatedly told Sondland, I want nothing. That's what I want from Ukraine, as smoking gun evidence. The impeachment inquiry is nothing more than a partisan witch hunt. Trump is 100% correct. Trump did so first while reading from handwritten notes just outside the White House. He emphasized it again in breathless tweets he posted a short time later. Donald Trump, tweet, Impeachment witch hunt is now over. Ambassador Sondland asked U.S. President me, what do you want from Ukraine? I keep hearing all these different ideas and theories. What do you want? It was a very abrupt conversation. He was not in a good mood. The president, just said, I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell President Zelensky to do the right thing. Later, Ambassador Sondland said that I told him, good, go tell the truth. The witch hunt must end now. So bad for our country. Viewed in that context, Trump's comments to Sondland about no quid pro quo and why nothing from Ukraine may have been a way to cover his behind, but during Wednesday's hearing, Republicans following Trump's lead decontextualized the call and cited it as evidence the president did nothing wrong. Here's Kevin McCarthy, the GOP minority leader. Don't be fooled by fake news headlines. A presumption is not evidence. Ambassador Sondland admits he has zero evidence that that ties President Trump to a scheme to withhold aid from Ukraine in exchange for investigations. Meanwhile, Americans are to be the judge and jury and pass sentence on Trump. Will they be up to the task? This is by Michael Payne from Nation of Change. The American people will be given the task of acting as judge and jury, examine all the evidence gathered, and pass judgment to declare Trump innocent or guilty. Up to the task, notice the arrogance there in presuming that if they don't come out on the Democratic side, they weren't up to the task. Before long, House Democrats will submit articles of impeachment. At some point, the trial involving impeachment will proceed. Republicans control the Senate and have made it clear, even before a trial has been initiated or articles of impeachment have been approved, there's no way they're going to vote to impeach the president, no matter how much damning evidence there may be against him, except there's a noticeable paucity of damning evidence of any kind. Republicans have therefore deliberately forfeited their responsibility under the Constitution to take part in acting as judge and jury. Actually, Mitch McConnell has been talking about arranging for an orderly, systematic trial, which, by the way, the Republicans will fully capitalize upon by calling Eric Carmella, the whistleblower, Vandeman, even Adam Schiff as witnesses and expose the profound corruption of this whole impeachment effort. So I have no doubt whatsoever we've long since now seen the high watermark for the Democrats. When Schiff gavelled the end of that phase of the inquiry for the Thanksgiving vacation, he was going back to hear the boredom from their constituents, that they're tired of all this, that they don't want this to go forward, leave it up to the election. So now here you have Democratic partisans questioning whether the people will be up to it, as though in a democracy you weren't to leave that up to the people. Watching them during the House hearings, one can readily tell they're paralyzed with fear, almost in a state of panic. I mean, this is absurd. They make nonsense excuses for what Trump did relative to Ukraine. This is them believing their own propaganda. Can't figure out how to deal with the various witnesses testifying against him. Louisa, this is not going to work out well for the Democrats. Being fully aware of what Republicans are going to do, Democrats will still go through the motions of presenting the case against this pretend president. Now that's so telling, Louisa. He's a pretend president because they still believe Hillary won the election when she lost. This is why they go against the Electoral College, where if we were to abandon it, all the campaigning would take place in the largest states, New York, California, Florida, Texas. The little states would be left out. Their interests would not even be taken into account because it would only depend on the popular vote. The founding fathers were very wise to create the Electoral College, and the Democrats are buffoons, but self-interested in promoting their own prospects and seeking to repudiate it. The evidence of guilt could hardly be more telling, according to Democrats. Trump's July 25th phone call with Zelensky of Ukraine, in which he slyly offered him, meaning he didn't actually do it, slyly offered him $400 million in military aid if he would investigate Biden and his son, was obviously a case of bribery extortion, except it's no such thing. Since Republicans will not carry out their constitutional responsibilities, the people of America will now be given the task of being appointed judge and jury in this critically important case. And the American people will fulfill their obligation, Louisa. They will fulfill their obligation. They go on to talk about how, the Republicans are trying to spin, but that's 100% what's been going on with the Democrats. What will it take to wake up millions of Americans? The Democrats must finish constructing a foolproof case against Trump. Impossible under the circumstances. When they present their final conclusions to the American people, it must be done in a concise, relatively simple way, not long and complicated, or the American span of attention isn't that great. Next, and most important, listen to this, Louisa. The American journalistic profession, from newspapers to radio and TV, must do everything possible to inform and educate the American people about exactly what is going on in this impeachment inquiry, to motivate them to get off the sidelines, get involved, and then vote against Donald Trump. They're soliciting the corrupt media, the fake news media, to assist them. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton, who needs a trial? Just impeach the guy already. If all the legalities of finding grounds for impeachment are making your head hurt, Hillary Clinton has got you covered. Trump has committed impeachable crimes, she says, and needs to be booted already. No trial required. The ongoing impeachment inquiry against U.S. President Donald Trump is just the first step in a drawn-out process. After gathering information, grilling witnesses, the House Intel Committee will send a report to the House Judiciary Committee, which will then draft articles of impeachment accordingly. The House will then vote on these articles, and Trump can only then be removed from office after a trial and a 2/3 vote in the Senate against him, which ain't going to happen. But due process is all a bit bothersome to Hillary Clinton, who reckons there's no need for an investigation to determine whether Trump committed high crimes and misdemeanors necessary to trigger impeachment. Just give him the boot. Louisa, the facts of the matter are all on Trump's side. So why even bother with a vote?
Coming from a woman who says, what difference does it make, when it's talking about Benghazi? And, that's how they do things. They just decide arbitrarily, okay, this is not a person, who is playing along with our agenda, so let's just remove them. And who's going to stop us? Because we are the power. We have all the control, and through their abuse of power, they get whatever they want. Now, this is why they're doing this. And this is, like Hugh has always said, optics are very important. He has to do this in a legitimate way to take down the deep state, which has infiltrated and really hijacked the Democratic Party. So what's happened is that all these ridiculous and frivolous, investigations and accusations against the president all have to fall empty, so that when all the indictments come out, the American people, Jim, are going to say that's why they were doing this. Because what's going on in Ukraine is far more than people realize. There's a lot of human trafficking, child trafficking going on through Ukraine as well. These are reports that I've been reading. They're not verified, but it's very likely very consistent with other reports that have been published. The human trafficking is huge, folks. It's bigger than anybody can possibly imagine. It's really going to shock people when it comes out.
And Ukraine also appears to be the location where CrowdStrike has a DNC server that was allegedly hacked, where in fact Seth Rich downloaded the files from the original DNC server.
Right.
Ukraine has played a very peculiar role in a whole host of corrupt political acts.
Yeah, a very dark role, Jim. You're absolutely right. And that's why the president, that's why if you read that transcript, and he's talked about, there's been a lot of problems. There's been a lot of corruption in Ukraine. He said this to the president of the Ukraine, the new president, that they wanted to, clean up. And this has to do with, it's not really the president's job to tell the world about human trafficking. It's up to the judicial system, through investigations to expose this. It's the judiciary that will do this. However, we had such a complicit and corrupt judiciary, that was very liberal very liberal biased. And so that had to be cleaned up. And as I reported earlier, you know, the president is on, what, 150 new judges now, maybe even more. But these sealed indictments are up to 134,000, Jim.
Well, you know, Louisa, I think this will be his enduring legacy, bringing a degree of constitutional integrity to the judicial system of the United States, which has been massively corrupted by the social agenda of the Democrats. I mean, it's appalling. I even see where the University of California is going to drop SAT and ACT scores because they're claiming they're racially prejudicial, when in fact they're objective measures of knowledge and ability. But because they now are promoting a social agenda over academic competence, I would say now we're going to get the equivalent of social promotion of students who are failing students just to keep them in the same age group as they go through the system, elevated now to the university level, which means it's no longer going to be the case that a university degree has significance, that employers are going to be baffled as to how to assess whether or not those coming out of institutions that heretofore could be assumed to be trustworthy and reliable in producing highly qualified graduates are no longer doing so. And they're going to have to institute their own systems of evaluation, questionnaires, and testing to measure the competence of those who have a degree but don't have the ability.
Yeah, Jim, I'm telling you, if people don't unite and start really waking up and understanding what's going on, what we spend our time, you know, Jim, we spend so much time trying to put the truth out there for people to watch, to listen to. It's like it's going to get worse before it gets better, because the people have to see this on their own and they have to demand change. Look at all the riots going on all over the world. Look what's happening in Athens. They want, you know, people are tired of the tyranny. And we're being brainwashed that we don't have tyranny, but we are living under tyranny, and it's just the biggest joke because, you know, everybody trusts, you know, the government. Well, that's stupid. And so, but you're right, and you know firsthand, and I know firsthand, Jim, what goes on in these courtrooms is nothing closely related to justice whatsoever.
You're right, Louisa. It's tragic. It's unbelievable. If I hadn't lived through it myself, I would never have believed that we have judges who do not follow the law. We have a court system that is prejudiced and biased on the basis of political considerations, completely independent of the evidence and the law. It's Absolutely. A disgrace, Louisa.
This is how they do it, Jim. This is what I've been dealing with for 8 years. It's a political agenda, and if you're against their agenda, you can kiss your life goodbye, because they will destroy you every way they can. They'll destroy your credibility, your character, they'll destroy your family, and they'll destroy you financially.
Louisa, if I weren't living through it myself here and now, I would have been skeptical, but you're 100% right. My case illustrates this as vividly as possible. And anyone who wants to know more should just, for example, visit my blog, or the Sandy Hook Posner versus Fetzer lawsuit, the basic document. And you'll see how the summary judgment in my case had to be resolved in my favor, because the court is obligated to assume that the argument and evidence presented by the defendant are appropriate, accurate, and true in order to make a ruling. But I had massive evidence, including from 2 document examiners, that the death certificate I described as a fabrication was in fact a fabrication. And therefore, it wasn't legally possible for the court to make a ruling favorable to the plaintiff under those circumstances. And yet, that's precisely what happened.
Well, this is what you're going to find in these investigation of the FISA abuse and the other abuses that are coming out, was that the judges, not necessarily the FISA judge, but these judges were actually withholding. They were actually keeping evidence from being presented. This is how it works. This is how they're doing it. But you know what? And it's been happening to you and me and all these other little guys out here, right? And now that it's happening to the president, Now they're putting the spotlight on the corruption, but it's not the beginning of the corruption. Don't make that mistake in thinking that that's the case, folks, because it's only at this point that the absurdity that's going on with the president is a macrocosm of the microcosm of what's happening in our courtrooms across the whole nation.
And there's more. There's this Soros link to the impeachment, an interview between Glenn Beck and Rudy Giuliani, who told him during an exclusive interview, U.S. diplomats were doing the bidding of billionaire philanthropist George Soros in Ukraine in a massive pay-for-play scheme that included falsifying evidence against President Trump. Really, the better word is fabricating evidence against President Trump. Giuliani, the president's personal attorney, spoke to Beck on his program Wednesday about claims being made against him by Democrats in their ongoing impeachment inquiry. The Anti-Corruption Bureau is a contradiction, said Giuliani, about the bureau set up in Ukraine to root out corruption. Get this. They took all the corruption cases away from the prosecutor general, gave them to the Anti-Corruption Bureau. They got rid of all the cases that offended Soros, included all the cases against Soros' enemy. One of the cases they dismissed was in which his NGO, ANT-AC, was supposed to have embezzled a lot of money. But not only that, collected dirty information on Republicans to be transmitted to this woman, Alexandra Chalupa, and others who worked on the DNC. The first case, former prosecutor Lusenko tanked was that one at the request of the ambassador. Elsewhere in the interview, Giuliani described his reaction when he discovered the Ukrainian collusion that undermined the accusations Democrats made against the president. Hallelujah! I now have what a defense lawyer always wants. I can prove somebody else committed this crime. Meanwhile, Noam Chomsky burnishing his CIA credentials. Democratic Party centrism risks handing the election to Trump. Get this. As the 2020 election race heats up U.S. politics, the nation's political culture as a whole, and even the future of organized human life are at a crossroads, according to Noam Chomsky. Another 4 years of Donald Trump would deliver nightmarish blows to democracy and social rights. I mean, listen to the hysteria here, Louisa. Not totally detached from reality, handing an unthinkable mandate to a president who's become notorious for undermining virtually everything of decent value to humanity. Have you ever heard a more blatant piece of propaganda? Yet the question remains whether this dangerous man will actually be defeated in 2020. As a Democratic debate on Wednesday, we witnessed a cacophony that did little to convey the ideological elements and political values that define the Democratic Party in the age of authoritarian neoliberalism and plutocracy. Intellectual shallowness and opportunism were prevalent throughout the debate. Pete Buttigieg's meager attempt to parry questions on his lack of support among Black voters attracted the most buzz. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren's reasonable and anything but radical wealth tax proposal received little attention because it remains anathema to the political establishment of the Democratic Party, as do Bernie Sanders' universal health care and climate change policies. To discuss what is really at stake in the 2020 presidential election truth-outs, C.J. Polychroniou interviewed Noam Chomsky, the world's leading public intellectual and a founder of modern linguistics. I have, by the way, a critique of Chomsky's political bias and his the inadequacies of his linguistic theory, for which he is so celebrated online. You can find them under Fetzer on Chomsky on YouTube, and I'm having them reposted on BitChute and 153news.net, which I gave years and years ago, but which remain true to this day. Chomsky is Professor Emeritus of Linguistics at MIT and Laureate Professor of Linguistics at the University of Arizona. He has published more than 120 books, which have appeared in most of the world's languages, and is the co-author of the forthcoming book with Robert Pollin and C.J. Polychroniou, who is interviewing him here, entitled The Political Economy of Climate Change. C.J. Polychroniou The 2020 presidential election is less than a year from now, and while most polls seem to indicate Trump will lose the national vote, I don't think so. The electoral vote is up for grabs. What manner of a democracy is this? Why isn't there a public outcry in this country about the antiquated institution of the electoral college? Noam Chomsky, preliminary comment. I find it psychologically impossible to discuss the 2020 election without emphasizing as strongly as possible what is at stake. Survival, no less. Embarrassingly bad. And now the Atlantic is trying to resurrect the Steele dossier, and believe it or not, on Meet the Press this Sunday, Louisa, Chuck Todd was interviewing Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS about the Steele dossier, where they were attempting to make it out to be an authentic, reliable, responsible document, when we know it's anything but. I remind viewers, I have a book on the Russia hoax available at Lulu, possibly also at Amazon.com, exposing the Russia hoax, which I recommend for your consideration. Louisa.
It's wonderful, Jim. Yeah, people, please go visit there and get a hold of these well-written scholarly documents that Jim has written and published. And, you know, Jim, we're only a month away from Christmas. Today's the 25th. Folks, you better go on to Moonrock Books or Lulu and get those books.
They actually make terrific Christmas presents if you have people who are the least bit intellectually oriented, whose minds are just a bit ajar, and who might be receptive to masses of evidence by experts. Each of these cases, I bring together the best experts, whether it's on JFK or 9/11 or Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, Orlando, Dallas, Charlottesville, Parkland. You can find them all at moonrockbooks.com, where the validation for the adequacy, the accuracy of our research has come directly from Amazon.com, which has now banned 6 of the 12 volumes we have published at Moonrock Books, all 6 of which were edited by yours truly.
Jim, thank you so much for your report. Are you done with your stories today?
Well, we can stop here if you like, Louisa. That's fine.
Okay, no, I absolutely think this is great. Thank you so much for your reporting today, Jim. And we'll see what happens in political masterpiece theater over the next week.
We shall indeed.
That's gonna be the subtitle of our reports, Political Masterpiece Theater. I just coined it, folks. Don't take it. It's too late. I'm getting the URL for that right now. So thank you, Jim. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next week, my friend, and we'll see all of our viewers next week again.
Thanksgiving, Louisa, and all of those here in our audience.
Absolutely, folks. Very much happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and just to be thankful for, you know, what we have, and not focus on, you know, the whole, you know, controversy over Columbus and all this other stuff. And folks, also, just so you know, if you've gotten to this far in this report today, know that we are preparing to go report live at a Trump rally, and we need your support. So please visit our website and make a donation and help us do this and get a really good live stream broadcast from an upcoming Trump rally that we're getting press credentials for. So we really would like to bring this live, since there's so few places that actually live stream the entire event, and which we will be doing. So please go to our website and make a donation so you can help us live stream for you that whole the Trump rally, or you can become a Patreon and make a donation there. Either way, folks, we can't do this without your support, so we do appreciate those who do contribute. We appreciate all of our Patreons from the bottom of my heart. They're so loyal, and we're very thankful. So, Jim, thank you. We'll see you all next week, and I'll be back to announce which Trump rally that's going to be soon. As soon as I get approved for those credentials. I applied for it. So have a great day. Have a great week, folks. Happy Thanksgiving. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFIsh Report.